Before we begin, I want to say this. This episode touches on family estrangement and emotional pain. If this topic feels heavy for you right now, please take care of yourself, pause, step away, or come back when you're ready. And if at any point you feel overwhelmed or unsafe, reaching out to someone you trust or a mental health professional can help. This space is meant for reflection and healing, and not pressure. Take what serves you and leave the rest. With that being said, let's jump into this episode. The holidays have a way of reminding you who's missing, not just at the table, but also in your life. For some of us, the absence isn't because they're gone. It's because distance became the only way to survive. If you're a scarred son who's no contact with your parents right now, this episode is for you. Welcome to the Scarred Sons podcast, where we dive into scars of life and the outcomes they shape. This podcast is a space for honest conversations about my journey, the lessons learned, the struggles endured, and the growth that followed, geared towards helping other sons with scars. We'll explore topics like personal development, mental and spiritual health, and the path to becoming the best version of yourself. Let's navigate these challenges together, one story at a time. Let's dive in. The views expressed on this podcast are based on my personal experiences and insights. I am not a licensed therapist, counselor, or medical professional, and the content shared is not intended as a substitute for professional advice or guidance. Please consult a qualified professional for advice tailored to your specific needs. I am not responsible for any decisions or outcomes resulting from the use of this content. Today I want to talk about what it's like being no contact with your parents during the holidays, the guilt, the grief, the peace, and the questions that come with it. I didn't go no contact because I was healed. I went no contact because staying connected was costing me more than I could afford. But nobody warns you about this part, that quiet part, the days where you don't reach out, but you still feel it in your chest. You can do the right thing and still grieve. You can protect your peace and still miss what you hoped things could have been. No contact doesn't mean you're over it. It just means you stopped abandoning yourself. If that's where you are right now, you're not broken. You're just trying to survive. So like I like to do with these pods, man, I got questions. And I do want to tell you this. I don't have these questions pre-planned out or anything. I'll have the questions ready, but I don't read them until I'm sitting down here right now recording. Because I want these thoughts to be organic. I want them to be my own thoughts, and I want you to feel, hopefully you feel the emotion so that you can really understand that I really go through this. One of my main goals for this podcast is to make sure, or to allow you to know that you're not on your own when you're going through these experiences. So I definitely wanted to feel raw. I definitely want you to understand that I really go through this so that you can understand that you're not alone on your journey. We're connected with so many people in this world in so many different ways. This is just my way of letting you know not to give up and to understand that you're not alone. We're going to jump right in with the first question here. What did staying connected to my parents cost me emotionally? Staying connected to my parents cost me to be seen. It cost me to put my needs first for myself. It cost me to be a people pleaser a lot longer. Not having the emotional connection I needed as a child, I learned to grow up without it. And coupling that with being a people pleaser is not the best formula. I tried to make things work for pretty much all my life. As of recent last year, 2024 Thanksgiving, I decided not to go home. I did ultimately go home for Christmas, but it was a bit different. And in 2025, I decided to not participate in any activities as my past traditions have gone. Staying connected to them also minimized myself. I minimized the needs. I minimized what was important to me for the sake of trying to please everybody but myself. And so no contact wasn't my first choice, but it was my last boundary. The thing about the holidays is they make everything louder, man. everything is amplified because it just forces you to think on your past. The next question is, what do the holidays bring up for me that ordinary days don't? Traditions, what you're used to doing, memories, you go to the family gatherings, you get to see your cousins, you get to see your aunts, you get to see your uncles, you get to laugh, you get the hugs, the embracements, the true breakaway from the day-to-day grind that you were looking forward to since you was a kid. I don't know how you or what you believed in or what your family believed in and what you did for holidays, but I know for me, I most look forward to being with my family that I didn't get to see every day. So my cousins, we got to see each other on weekends, but this was a time I got to spend days with them because we was out of school. During the holidays, you get a week mostly. And so a lot of people are off. You get to see them more. You get to laugh. You get to joke. It's time together. Also, with that being said, now that this is your new reality, you ultimately miss that. You miss being in those rooms with those people sitting at those tables. And then you have the questions that you get at work from your friends. What you doing for the holiday? You and your family, you and your wife, y'all traveling, y'all going home, y'all going to see the family. And this year is a lot different. That conversation goes a lot differently because it's like, I'm going to decide to not go home this year. I'm going to spend it here. I'm not going to do the traditional thing this year. And so that can be abnormal. And so honestly, I pick and choose when I want to share that. Sometimes I'll just go with it because, ultimately depending on who that person is, I'm like, man, I don't even think you really care. I think this is just a topic. It's a routine. It's like one of those water cooler chats. It's just something to talk about. It's like talking about the weather, but it's in December. It's the holiday season. You typically would ask a person, hey, what are you going to do for the holiday? But now that question, so many things are different now when you are in the shoes that I'm in. And you don't even really think about these things until you're here. The holidays don't create the pain. They just amplify what's already there. Let's jump into the last question. Can I hold peace and grief at the same time without betraying myself? I feel like being able to love my parents from a distance has been pretty good for me because I'm not there in the midst of it. I can focus on other things. It's not at the forefront. I'm not seeing other family members on a regular for it to be a reminder that I'm no contact. But grieving people that are still alive is difficult, but I'm getting better, right? So one thing my therapist challenged me with, or not challenged me, but one exercise he gave me was to write a letter to my mother and father, just kind of based on just telling them everything that I wish I could have had as a child. And it was to speak from a child's perspective because that's where a lot of my pain stems from. After writing out that letter, I was really able to put a lot of peace now with this current reality. Because I never labeled my parents as bad people. I never labeled them as not caring. I never labeled them as not wanting to be a part of me. I label it as where we are in life and what we deal with, that thing that's sitting in front of us. As long as I know that they're okay, I can be okay. But, at some point, I also have to choose me. And I also have to come to the reality that this is the reality. And so processing this has been a journey. It was not a decision that I said, hey, man, I ain't talking to my parents no more and was cool. It's a lot of days and times, and especially during the holidays, where it's like, man, they not even just crazy that this is the reality. But I also feel a lot of peace in that because I don't feel like I have that bad of an experience with my parents to the point where, I have hatred or to the point where I have resentment. I just have to be able to move forward at some point, and I can no longer focus on what I'm not getting from my parents and move forward. Something can't do both. So I can't keep looking back and walk forward and not run into something. So at some point I have to place a boundary in effect, and I have to give myself some guidance or guidelines to not go outside of, so that I can remain safe. It's a lot of things that come with not having the situation you want can really tear up your mental and emotional state. I pride myself on continuing to wake up each morning, even though sometimes I do have suicide ideations, and not to the point where I'm like planning it out, but I'm just thinking to myself like, man, what would it be like? Like, because so much can build up on you. You got your whatever you go through in life. You got finances, you got relationships, you got careers. And if too many of those things aren't aligned as a man, as a provider, somebody that wants to provide, it can tear somebody down. I pride myself on being able to be strong enough mentally to dig deep enough to find a passion and to not let all those thoughts consume me, because it can be a challenge. And so I thank God for keeping me alive. I thank my wife for keeping me accountable to going to therapy. And definitely shouts out to my therapist for keeping me engaged in the journey. And also for me for wanting to keep putting forth the effort, man. So we have to do these things. Unfortunately, they're not traditional. They don't sound like the best thing to do. But you have to do what's best for you, not for anybody else around you. And sometimes putting yourself first means helping the people around you. It means building a boundary for yourself for people to respect the new version of you, because you don't want that old version anymore. That's the whole purpose of the growth. You can honor your parents without giving them access to you. It's completely doable and respectable. I want to just leave you with this reminder, this reflection. As you move through the holidays, don't rush to make sense of your family story. Some relationships hold both warmth and wounds at the same time. Distance doesn't erase the good, and remembering the good doesn't invalidate the pain. And I'd like you to just sit with that. There's more truth there than we're usually allowed to tell. So during this holiday, wherever you may be, I want you to reflect on some of the good things and not consider this to be a bad thing. Because choosing yourself and putting yourself first is the best thing that you can always do for yourself. Because you have to better yourself in order to help others. And you become a light around those in need that may be going through the same thing as you. If you're listening to this and wondering why it still hurts, let me say this clearly. The pain doesn't mean you made the wrong choice. It means you made a hard one. Healing isn't loud. Sometimes it looks like distance. Sometimes it looks like grief with boundaries. And if tonight feels heavy, don't rush yourself to be okay. Sit with what's real. Keep choosing yourself, even when it costs. No contact doesn't mean no pain, but it does mean you're finally giving yourself a chance to heal. I'll see you in the next one, where I break down the relationship between my mother and father, the good and the broken. Peace and love, y'all. Thank you for joining me on the Scarred Sons podcast. Remember, every scar tells a story, and every story has the power to inspire growth. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to reach out and share your journey. Don't forget to stay up to date with the podcast by liking, commenting, and subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also follow us on Instagram at scarred.sons for more content and updates. Until next time, keep moving forward, keep healing, and remember, scars don't define you, they shape you. Stay strong, and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.